I get the responsibility of what you guys have been talking about. How do we bring solutions to bear in a mature legacy environment and really help customers or clients kind of transition? So when I thought about this discussion, I kind of went here immediately, and what I thought was, you know what, I think what I'll do, hope it works, is give you a little bit of the way that we do knowledge transfer with our customers or our clients when it comes to what we kind of start to hold near and dear. We kind of use the term dynamic content management, and really what we're really trying to get to is really what it says there. It's about driving increased segmentation through a high degree of personalized messaging. So that's really the types of solutions that we really want to bring to bear for our clients. So the first thing we'll do is, remember, narcissistic, who we are. So we're one of the biggest companies you've never heard of. So IWCO Direct. What do? We're really about direct marketing and direct marketing solutions. So when you think about things like acquisition, retention marketing, that's where we really come to bear. We, in fact, are the largest direct mail, which is one channel, and I'm going to talk about more, in North America. We've been around for 50 years. I've not been there for 50 years, but I've been there for a little bit less. We actually can deliver production scale messaging over 5 billion pieces annually through that one channel. If you take a little bit of a look, and I wanted to kind of come at this from a client perspective in terms of the verticals or the industries, makes a ton of sense, right? So when you think about direct marketing, acquisition marketing, financial services, insurance, MSO, subscription services, a big thing for us, return on marketing investment. How do you, as a customer, maximize your investment and get a return with your marketing dollar? A little bit of the logo sheet, no stranger to anyone in the room. Again, it's really not about puffery. It's really about reinforcing. We deal with some of the biggest and the baddest in terms of customer and clients across multiple verticals. And I keep harping on that term, multiple verticals. The reason I do that is when we start talking about our approach to dynamic content management, it's got to span not only the test of time, but the different channels to which we serve. How do we do that? Part of the value proposition with direct marketing, it's really about end to end. For us, it's about strategy, creative, as well as execution. Full service provider. That's what we start to bring to bear a little bit. A couple keywords start showing up. Things like omni-channel. So I won't do this to you, but it's fun to take a poll. What does omni-channel mean in comparison to multi-channel? It means different things to different people. I'm going to tell you or show you what it means for us. How do we deal with optimization of cost as well as providing high velocity, high personalization of format and content in the direct marketing space? So this, very colorful, it's a cool eye chart. It's a little bit of how do we create value for our customers and clients. Cost always leads, unfortunately. How do we improve response rates? How do we lower this cost per acquisition? Because apparently that's pretty darn important. How do I get a return or increase response rates at a more economical scale? How do I improve results? And then how do I get higher response? So there's a lot of tiles on the screen. One of the things that I did here is if I look at just a few of these and kind of group them together, you got to start thinking like this. Improved targeting and analytics can really drive performance. Data-driven. So I saw that in a previous presentation like 5 minutes ago where it was content was king, data drives content. That's an important consideration that we start to bring to bear. And then how do you deal with not just digital but other multi-channel tactics in order to get that kind of response that you're driving? Here's how we tend to look at it. Remember, I said data is a big part of that. So when we take a customer through this experience, it's really a lot about how do you want to structure data to drive some of the content. Digital asset management is also key. For us, digital assets are more than pictures. It's any type of messaging that you want to do in direct marketing. How do you deal with all those in a dynamic and variable content environment? This is where tools really come to bear. That's where it starts to sing. So we've got certainly a pretty big organization. We've got a number of tools at our disposal in our arsenal. We, for dynamic content management, have a tendency to focus on a specific application, which won't remain nameless because I'm going to show you in a second here, that we think really helps drive some of what customer needs are in the market. For us, it's striving to get to an enhanced marketing strategy through true one-to-one messaging. So how do we do it? We do it with DCM. What's the value to clients going through DCM? We chose very specifically not to use CCM as part of our discussion. It's thinly veiled though, so dynamic content management for us is really a perfect marriage. It's a marriage of not only technology, but workflow that really comes together with a couple of important things. As I think I mentioned before, data, assets, content, how do I drive business rules and targeting, and how do I do that in really a robust workflow to ensure that customers get the results that they want, but equally important, how do they collaborate and interact with the environment, really to drive, sometimes we use the term unlimited versioning, unlimited one-to-one personalization. We marry what we do with DCM and technology to really be able to deliver that. How do we do it? Business users. So I heard this a couple of times. I was going to come up and say the first thing you want to do is reinvent the wheel, but I thought that was a little jerky thing to say. One of the things that we really focus on, though, is what do clients and business users really need? This isn't an exhaustive list, but it's a pretty important one. It's really about multi-omni-channel delivery and performance. It's about proofing. Here's the one thing I've learned in my long 4-year tenure working on DCM. This idea of clients' innate need to WYSIWYG the stuff, which is, I think somebody talked about Lotus 1, 2, 3, WYSIWYG comes out to play. How do I make changes, realize those changes, validate those changes in real time? That's proofing stuff. How do I deal with multiple layout variations in a much more agile and simplified way? Version management, so cycle time. You got to think like this. So everyone's interested in reducing their overall cycle time. People have a tendency to forget that a big part of that is concurrency. So if I'm in active production cycle time, how do I also do my development concurrently with active production? That plays a pretty significant role in reducing overall cycle time. That's this idea of version management. Targeting, everybody gets targeting, and workflow. So if I take these items and I blow them out a little bit, first thing I always have to do is education. So a little bit of knowledge transfer. What's the anatomy of a dynamic layout? So this, I don't care if it's an email, if it's a letter, is really legacy thinking. It's how do I look at a fully composed piece that I want to send out in the market. We really dispel that. That's the first thing we do is bust that apart, no pun intended, and we start talking about the concepts of you don't have to look at everything. You can really zone this out and start to look at managing content in a much more effective and efficient way. Once you start doing that, you can start to drive variability within zones within your content. So that type of legacy thinking is one of the first things we dispel when we interact with customers. The reason we like to do that is because it's a great transition to this slide. This idea of dynamic versioning. What is it? So the idea of a picture worth 1,000 words, that's really where I focus my attention. So it's really the icon over there. How do you create structure and format that will allow dynamic variability through a small number of designed wireframes. So we call them wireframes, we call them templates. Why do I want to use that? It's about speed. How do I rapidly expand these formats and the versioning through the use of this kind of hierarchy? So, always got to use PowerPoint animation. So if I take that concept and I build this idea, hard to see on screen, but the idea of a wireframe or a template, I can really simply drive a lot of variability in real time. So I think on the first slide it talked a lot about digital technology. When we marry digital production technology with this kind of concept, literally, that's what flies out of the equipment. High degree of layout variability, content variability, and personalization. That's the tail of the tape. So literally, I can deliver not just email, but I can deliver to you stuff in your mailbox, which is where people put letters, that really will look different for you than it does for the person right next door. That's pretty rockin' stuff, because that really is what drives a lot of return on marketing investment. How do I do it? I talk a lot about not just the reuse of content and imagery, but the proliferation. So centralized management of digital assets and content that then can be utilized across an entire environment, across an entire organization through multiple portfolios of campaigns. That's really a little bit of the method to the madness. This slide I can never explain adequately. It looks like a tree, I know that much. It looks like an org chart. The key here is how do I easily make changes that's one to many. So making a change that then will proliferate through my entire portfolio. That's a big deal. So even in a legacy environment with different types of marketing collaterals, it requires multiple changes across each of those collaterals. In the environment that we look at, we structure it in a way where the color starts to play. What if there's certain types of content that I want to propagate through all of my campaigns or my marketing campaigns? How do I do that quickly and efficiently? I do it with animation. So you remember this slide. Think of it like this, and this is the way we promote it. If you look at those communiques on the right, and you start thinking about the content of zoning in an interactive and collaborative environment, that's a logo. Obviously it's a logo. It's propagated in all of those communiques, which literally could be thousands. How do I make a change that will automatically, either through logic, business rules, or data, propagate in the way that I want to do it? That's pretty important stuff, again, in choosing the types of enablers or technology to support what we want to do. Hard to see, but I actually did it. Talked about it before, development and release management. Talking to people about the ability to interact with an environment, not just for the purpose of workflow and active production, but to also go in there concurrently and do development. And once that development occurs, it's at their power to promote that and synchronize it in the application. What that's really driven for us, interestingly, and this was a tough thing to do. I heard the nemesis word InDesign earlier today. So a lot of creative folks deal with legacy applications to deal with creative development. One of the things that we found in our environment is if we promote a more agile way of interacting directly with the platform for creative folks to do development work that eases the migration into production or active production, goes a long way. We actually have a number of clients that purposely in a distributed environment have all of their creative agencies interacting directly with the platform. Content testing and targeting, kind of a no-brainer. It really is what's under the hood that drives the variability in the content. One of the things that we promote, because the application we use highly promotes that, is natural language. So think very Boolean, which which doesn't sound very natural. But think about being able to go into an environment in a very simple way to create targeting rules and groups that vary the content that don't require, hopefully there aren't any in the room, IT programmers to really deliver that. Real-time stuff. That really resonates with business users. How does it work? Pretty simple. This is that marriage of data again. So if I think data, which generally is more than 3 records, but I can simply create those business rules and via those business rules start targeting varying content and varying messages in dynamic real time, that's where I get to my high degree of personalization. So even though interacting with the application, you can do that, a lot of stuff under the hood is really driven through the idea of production data and data optimization. Real-time proofing. Again, early on in my journey, I would have thought this was not that big of a deal. It's really a big deal for folks. So the ability, again, to make a change, do a round trip, literally see that change in a production composed output measured in less than a minute or 2 minutes, that's a big deal. It used to take, in legacy environments, if you're thinking about direct mail as a marketing channel, you'd have to measure that sucker in probably 5 days, 3 to 5 days to do it. We can offer that iteration now in minutes. And we can also offer collaboration, direct interaction with our clients in our own organization. This one really resonates. Approval workflow, having everything at your fingertips through perpetuity, who, what, where, when, is also a pretty big deal. So being able to manage not just an approval process, but to be able to distribute that across multiple organizations and know when it occurred, that resonates as well. Distributed environment, I just said that. So one of the things that we did in our journey, and this is measured back a whopping 4 years when we were looking at technology and solutions, we wanted an environment that was cloud-based, could offer distributed interaction, multiple organizations as well as within organizations in order to enable that kind of multifaceted approach to working in the environment. Omni-channel delivery, I'll tell you this much, this is a little bit of a siren song, but everybody wants it and everybody wants to do it. Starting out legacy with the desire to evolve to multi-channel through centralized platform and centralized content utilization to do omni, that's a big deal. And so now when we really interact with DCM and our clients, this is up front and center. It's always part of the talk track. It's usually part of a future, but it's always what they're desirous of being able to do. How does it work? I think this is my first flash. The application we use is this thing called Message Point. And so you may have heard of it. You probably heard of it about 10 minutes ago. Really cloud-based stuff. I love this slide for a number of different reasons. But one is it really depicts how business users interact with the environment, really driving the content variability, marriage, the workflow, legacy workflow through composition engines if they're there. For us, a big deal is Quadient in production print, but also we're big time HTML, e-delivery environment. Now, one thing I always point out, it's hard to see, is this horizontal line. That's a pretty important line because for clients that are concerned about secure data and information management, that represents the firewall. The majority of our clients like the idea of keeping data secure behind firewalls, but still being able to interact with content in a distributed environment. How does it provide value to them? Those are the ways. Performance. So I can quickly and efficiently whip out multiple versions, multiple iterations. Cost, revenue. Revenue driven through increased response in the market because I'm highly personalizing my messaging. What we even find, frankly, in a direct mail channel, high degree of personalization, anywhere from 5 to 10% response increases. Mail, believe it or not, hard for me to believe it, is still the most effective marketing channel for response-driven performance in acquisition and retention. If you marry that with multiple or omni-channel performance, you actually increase it further. Speed to market, big deal for us. Quality. Quality is a couple things. How do I ensure what I see is what I get, but how do I enforce my brand standards and compliance standards? Why clients need it? I can expand what I need to do in a real agile and effective way. I can reduce effort and resource utilization, less churns, less people involved, and I can reuse stuff. Even if I don't want to reuse specific content, I reuse my brand stuff over and over again. This is kind of a little interesting thing, and it really resonates with folks. It's an actual deal. Exponential scale very easily. So we actually have an environment where if you think of that base layout or creative, a real finite number of those, in this case 25, drives thousands of variable content iteration to produce millions of communications. That's scalability, and that's reduced management of content driving that scalability. What do they also benefit with? Marketing effectiveness. It's just the tail of the tape. Personalization, dynamic content management gives you greater return on your marketing spend. Clients want this from us. They want to be involved. They want to interact. They want to collaborate. So control over messaging, content, and rules in a partnering environment, really important stuff. Efficiency, quality, and compliance. That's all dynamic content management. A couple of things though, I like to call them, because it's on the slide, critical success factors. So I heard this earlier. This really resonated with me when I heard it earlier. Who's really driving this? For us, the science to onboarding CCM or DCM is this kind of journey. If you don't partner with your clients and customers to deliver the requirements and the solution they desire, you're going to fail. So that's what we do every time. First thing, 12 o'clock, paying attention, listening. I think I mentioned part of my role is the PMO. Everything we do is project management driven with regard to onboarding clients. Defining those requirements up front makes the build, makes implementing, makes UAT, makes the experience a wonderful thing, and then you don't walk away. It's a partner arrangement. One of the things that we find is we need to be there to help promote and support the evolution of our clients. We can stand up a solution that delivers what they want today, but it won't position them necessarily where they want to be in the future. That's an iterative process. We maintain that 360 degree when we partner. This you can't see, which makes it very powerful for me, by the way. Couple of things. If you look at a real simple op model, for us it's a couple streams of consciousness. One is really about content. What is the workflow for the content? The other, I may have mentioned the importance of data, is data. And the third one is, what is that business user interaction? That's the loop up there. If I were to take this op model, which I'm going to do, and highlight certain areas in it, what are those critical success factors for interaction with business users in managing content initially as part of onboarding? This is the tail of the tape for us. It's really about the ability to deal with data and content ingestion in a solution in a real agile and efficient way. Flexible layout creation, that's key. Remember, personalization. How do you deal with composition? Directly through the platform or outside the platform? That's a big deal too. This idea of how do I drive templates, metadata to drive not only reporting but reaction downstream. That was key for us as well. And how do you streamline and accelerate the onboarding experience? It doesn't work if you tell somebody, I'm going to talk to you about a very agile solution that takes a long time to build. Those things are very counterintuitive. So for us, it's really about maximizing the rate at which we can do that kind of onboarding to support the change management. Another area, this is really the business user stuff, simplified user interface. Don't make it hard, don't make it complex, but make it powerful for a customer experience. Email, HTML, multi-channel, it's got to be there so it supports the evolution. Web call stuff, that's selfish, but for us it's really about driving reaction under the hood with the workflow and the solution. And then another thing, kind of important, is this idea that, and I think Patrick used the word, I can't remember which said Patrick, ecosystem. That's the first time I heard that. I always thought it was ecosystem, but then I'm a Minnesota guy, so it could be something to do with how I was taught.
I'm from Detroit.
Oh, yeah. That means you're going to kick my butt later for bringing this one up. So part of what we look at is kind of I'll call it an ecosystem or a workbench that you can employ, because guess what? Clients and customers have multiple solutions and tools. What they're interested in is how do I effectively integrate or interact with what exists, as well as dislodging or displacing. That's important for us too. It's an easier sell, believe it or not. The other thing to kind of call it more infrastructurally related is, I talked about web call development. How do I deal with easing the output of my environment to facilitate my execution and production workflow? How do I deal with, there's the I word again, integration with things like digital asset management? In certain environments, certain workflow, that's pretty key stuff. You've got to reproduce it in a quality way. And so being able to interact with systems that manage that, as well as content, is a pretty big deal. How do I deal with data management, simulation management? And I always throw this in there. It's my little tweak to message point every time. How do I deal with increasing areas of infrastructure optimization going forward? I don't want to stop. I want to continue to evolve. I need to have solutions that do that for me as well. So that leads to this slide, or really the most narcissistic slide of them all, is showing my name on screen. So, you know, drinking from a fire hose, admittedly, this is a little bit of knowledge transfer, the approach we take with our customers and clients to kind of bring their thought up to speed, not just on the possibilities, but how to realize those possibilities. So having said that, and everybody's eyes are still open, which is a big thumbs up there, any questions that I can help you with on any of this stuff? Any at all? I'm just teasing. Yeah, what do you got?
Yeah, I thought, may have missed it, but you were going to describe your definition of omnichannel?
Yeah. Well, I was going to leave it open, but I'll tell you mine. So for me, omnichannel is really the utilization of the same content and layout structure to proliferate across multiple channels. That's different than multi-channel. So that's an important thing. So if I'm sending a message, and it really works through journey mapping. If I send you a letter and it's laid out with specific content, specific offering, and I can follow up with a depiction of that same content and offering via another channel as a reminder, that's the way I kind of view omnichannel. Is that the way you view it?
My version of it has persistence in it, which means if I send you something from one channel and you reject it, I won't bother you with that same offer or whatever on another channel. It's
got a negative connotation to reusing the same content and layout if you don't react or respond.
Yeah, or if you say you started a reaction, say, yeah, I'm interested in it, don't send them another offer that says, are you interested in it? Send them an offer that says, I hear you're interested in it, maybe to another channel. So that's got an element of persistence.
I like it.
but
I like it. There's no reason for you and I to fight. I agree with both of those things.
there's so many different versions of it.
Well, it is, and it really means something different to everybody that you interact with. That's kind of really the point I was trying to get to on it.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, just on follow-up on that, is the layout as important as the content and reuse? I'm struggling with the layout part of that.
It is. Flexibility of layout is pretty important stuff. So a lot of times what we'll do in the application is we really exploit some functionality in the tool for alternate layouts. Because what we find is this, one of the things we can do, I'm going to keep beating the drum on direct mail. Everybody thinks that if I send you a different format, a different package configuration, that's really what solicits a different kind of reaction. That's not it. It's content, and it's layout of that content. So I can, and I just learned this, and been around this company for a while, but I just learned what a number 10 envelope is, if anyone really cares. It's kind of a standard one that everybody gets. What you put in that number 10 and the way you lay it out is more impactful than using different sizes of formats. Did I in any way respond to your question? Awesome. There's one for me. That doesn't happen very often. Anything else I can help you with? Okay, I appreciate you letting me drone on and taking